You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back to the Cabral Concept. Great to have you with me here today. Looking forward to diving into our Motivation and Mindset Monday show. We've got a great topic for you today, and that is something called the Nocebo Effect. This is so important and something that's very rarely, if ever, talked about in the self-improvement space, the health space, the body transformation space, etc. We know about the placebo effect, and that is by using something, taking something, thinking something, believing something, and then seeing that appear in our life. So a lot of times we use this for lab-based research. We test a particular vitamin or pharmaceutical or nutrient against another group who's just taking a capsule or concoction that contains essentially nothing, a little sugar pill or a little bit of baking soda or whatever it might be, and we test how does the group that's getting the actual nutrient, vitamin, etc. fare versus the group that's actually getting nothing per se. They're just getting, let's just say, a sugar capsule. And we look at it and we say, what do the two groups do? Well, believe it or not, we actually see a remarkable rise and improvement even in the placebo group because they believe they are taking something to improve their overall health, their overall well-being, or whatever it might be, whatever the goal is of that study. And then we also see an improvement, maybe, we'll see, in the group that's getting the vitamin, mineral, pharmaceutical, etc., right? Some intervention that we want to see that play out. Well, then our goal in lab research is to actually look at how much better was the pill than the placebo. And if it does 3x, 5x, 10x, we say, well, there's a clear difference than the placebo group versus the group that got the actual intervention. And that can also be versus a control group which did absolutely nothing. So the placebo typically does better than the group that does absolutely nothing. And then our job is to see, did the intervention group, did the group that got that pill do better than both the control and the placebo? That's what we're looking for to see if there's any efficacy in that actual product. Well, we know about that, and then we know about the power of the mind. That's why it's so important to believe, and I will be talking about that in just one moment, because that alone can change the trajectory of your life. But there's something else, and that's something that's almost never talked about, and that's called the Nocebo Effect. Now, I don't know why, but for whatever reason in our culture, our belief system, our Western form of thinking, we find that we can push things in one direction, but we never always look at the opposite direction. So, for example, when we look at losing body weight, we say, oh, okay, this person's lost a lot of body weight. Great. They're not overweight, which means that there's not going to be any type 2 diabetes, less chance for cancer, less chance for gallbladder issues, less chance for this, and this. But if you get too lean and too thin, you're going to see more wrinkling of the skin. You're going to see thinner skin. You're going to see the collagen breakdown. You're going to see lower mood. You're going to see muscle loss. You're going to see more osteoporosis, typically more anxiety. You're going to see all of those nutrient-based deficiencies. You're going to start to see vision-based issues. We never talk about that. Same with blood pressure. You go to your PCP, MD, hospital, etc., and you walk in and your blood pressure is 89/53, and they say, great, you've got low blood pressure. Meanwhile, you have symptoms of dizziness upon standing, weakness, no muscle-based energy, hard to produce any type of ATP or energy-based output, and that's in both mind and body. You feel weak in both mind and body. But again, you're not going to die most likely of a stroke. You're not going to have that high blood pressure, so they say, great. Well, there's a problem there, and that's what we have to look at as well. It's not always the highs, but it's the lows too. What does that have to do with the nocebo effect? Well, the nocebo effect is the other side of the placebo effect. If you believe you are going to achieve a result, you're more likely to get the result, or at least some improvement that we see inside of the placebo effect. Well, the other side of that coin is the nocebo effect, which means if we believe something negative is going to happen or we won't achieve something, that will most likely happen as well. That's called the nocebo effect. And again, we see this play out over and over and over in many types of practices and disciplines throughout the world. In my practice as a clinical practitioner, someone that practices an integrative approach to all medicine, but does not use pharmaceutical-based drugs, does not treat, diagnose, or cure disease, but rather looks at the underlying imbalances of why people cannot get well, why they can't rebalance their body, why they can't heal. I look at the nocebo effect. I talk a lot to people about their current lot, we'll call that in quotations, in life. I ask them about their stress. I ask them, what are the things that are hindering them right now? I talk to them as a person rather than a number, than a patient-based number that's going to be billed on insurance, right? That's going to be different than an ICD-4, ICD-9 code, different than what I input on electronic medical records, right? I do not choose to practice that way. I believe it's a very cold form of medicine. I believe that people get well by discovering a lot about themselves, that they discover what works for them, and that doesn't happen overnight. Well, what happens with this nocebo effect is sometimes, and again, without our knowledge it's working, and we're telling ourselves, like I used to do, I'm not going to get well until X, right? I'm not going to get well until I find the right doctor. Or I'm not going to get well until I find that book that speaks to me and that I implement that plan. Or I'm not going to get well until I graduate from college. Or I'm not going to get well until I have the money to be able to do these specific treatments. Or I'm not going to get well until I'm able to meet the right person and relieve the stress of not having that someone in my life that I want. All of these things, you are giving yourself an ultimatum. You're not going to get X until Y happens. So I'm going to be talking a lot about wellness-based today, and that's because that is my forte, right? That is my, let's say, expertise. It's what I do. I'm not an expert in many areas of life. I'm not. But I know enough about them in order to help you try to find those answers for yourself. And that's all I want to do. The Cabral concept is dedicated to the truth, and it's dedicated to the spread of information so that you can use it, you can get yourself well, you can share that information with others. Well, what I look at is this, is that getting your body well and achieving your ideal body weight, and that means wellness in both mind and body, and I would say transformation in both mind and body, it can be applied to all areas of life. So when I talk about the relationship, the spiritual, the body, the health, and the career, it's all the same. And you can use the nocebo effect in all of those areas by saying, I'm not going to get X, which would be your goal, until Y happens, which is your ultimatum. The problem is, by saying that, you are presenting yourself with a nocebo effect. I talk about it every day in my practice. So we have something called our Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. It works phenomenally well. We've used it thousands of times, maybe over 10,000 times. It works. That's the bottom line. And we've done that because we've seen it in clinical practice. But here's the deal with it, though. It's 12 weeks long. So are you going to say to yourself, well, I'm going to get well after the 12 weeks? No. You could get well within 2 to 3 weeks. The 12 weeks is to finish the protocol, to enable you to remove the toxicities and replace the deficiencies. And that is in terms of the microbiome. But what I tell people is this. People ask me all the time, when do you think I'll get well? And I tell them, there's no timetable. We have to work with your body. Now, I will tell you that if it's a mitochondrial issue, if it's an energy issue, if it's a blood sugar issue, if it's an autoimmune issue, you do have to understand that your cells turn over every 12 to 16 weeks. So to ask yourself to get better in a week might be a bit much. However, I do not want to present the nocebo effect with you. I'm not going to tell you that it's going to take you 12 weeks to get better. You can feel phenomenally better like most people do after 3 weeks. And the reason is we put you on our very specific elimination-based diet, right? That we've eliminated many of the things that are causing inflammation in your body. Many of the things that are causing estrogen dominance, bloating, gas, acid reflux. All the issues that are main causal factors for a lot of the dis-ease in your body. So you could feel phenomenally better within 3 weeks like many people do. However, it might take you 6. So what if I tell you 3 weeks and you don't feel better in 3 weeks? You'll think it's not working. Or what if I tell you that you're probably not going to start to feel better for that first cell changeover within 12 to 16 weeks. Well, then you will continue to not feel better for 3 or 4 months because that's what you've told yourself, and I've told you. So we have to be really careful as integrative health practitioners that we do not put the nocebo effect in our patients or clients, etc. So what we need to do is let them know that the body heals on its own time. What we're going to do is foster that healing. We're going to help walk you down this path, this journey of healing, of wellness. So what I need you to do is understand that most certainly in life, though, what you believe is going to allow you to get more of that. Now, the hard thing is this. We all go through hard times. There's no doubt about that. My hardest times in life were supposed to be really those glory days, right? I was my senior of high school, all through college, my early 20s. Well, don't get me wrong. I had a phenomenal time in life. I have amazing friends that I've had, many of them since high school, and some of those which since college as well. And I have great relationships, met my wife at a young age. So don't get me wrong, life is good. Life was good. But I had a lot of mental anguish and mental struggle, and I didn't get well for many years, partially because I was quite angry, and I had a lot of anger towards the doctors that couldn't get me well. I had a lot of anger towards the dermatologist that put me on 3,000 capsules of amoxicillin. I had a lot of anger towards the family physician that gave my family, a Z-Pak, zithromycin, or antibiotics at the first sign of a cold or sniffles, right? I had a lot of anger there. All of that had to be pacified. But in a way, not that I repressed it, but rather that I began to say, I understand. I understand why I went through this. I understand that if I did not go through it, I wouldn't be where I am today. I understand that if I did not go through it, I would not have read the thousands of books that have allowed me to accumulate a lot of knowledge that may not have worked for me, but is going to work for a lot of other people. And it's that perspective and that type of gratitude which eventually pulled me out of what I call victimhood. I was a victim of my disease, and it wasn't one disease, it was many. And it was many mystery illnesses, right? I wasn't even diagnosed for 2 years. So I was just bouncing around saying, hey, I'm the sick kid. Nobody knows how to get me better, right? I have the mystery-based illness that stumps every doctor out there. Well, of course, it's not every doctor out there. I just hadn't found the right doctor. But what I eventually did, and I'm about to teach you right now, is I had to start to reframe my mindset. And I had to go from this person of the victim, where they give over all of their control to the program or the doctor, right? So this doctor's going to get me well. This book, program, online system is going to get me well. That is not the mindset we have to have. And the reason is this, is that you blame your failures or even successes on some power outside of you. You feel that you're all alone in this battle. You feel that no one else knows what you're going through. And the other thing is you're looking typically for the quick fix. Like, this is it. This is my last attempt. This is my last try at what? Now fill in the blank. Relationships, spirituality, your relationship with God, the universe, your career, your body, right? Losing weight can be very frustrating, or putting on weight can be frustrating, and getting well. So you give these ultimatums like, if this doesn't work, this is it. This is my last try. I'm just going to give up after this. Well, that's going back again to victimhood. And believe me, I was there. I relapsed more times than I could count. There's no way I could possibly count the amount of times I relapsed. I would start to get well, feeling good. I was, this is it. I'm getting well. And then relapse again. That's a tough point to be at, especially as a kid, right? When you're a teenager and you're in your early 20s, you're still a kid. Your mind's not even fully developed until 25. Right? We've seen that. We know what it looks like. The prefrontal cortex and other parts of your brain, they don't have enough of experience. Enough of the synapses haven't been truly connected, and enough of our, just like I said before, life experience. Like, we just don't have enough perspective. We've basically been sheltered. And because of that, we haven't been able to make all of the rational-based experience and connections that we need. Well, that's the problem with the victim, though, is that they don't own this disease. They don't own the body. They don't own the spirituality, the relationships, the career. You need to go from a point of victimhood to a point of empowerment. And the reason I say that is this. The more you believe in something, the more of that you're going to get in life. And I've talked about that on previous Mindset and Motivation Mondays. So if you believe you are on the right track to getting well, that your doctor, the program, etc., is going to work, yes, it's going to work even better, right? It's going to work even better. And that is because this. And I want to explain why it works in just one moment. Because if you believe the negative, if you believe that the first obstacle you hit, or you are the person that doesn't get well because you went to the doctors, you read the books, you did the same programs as your friends or people in the support group that you found, and you still didn't get well, you're reinforcing that negative as well. And here's why. It's because the effects of your daily thinking, what you think about the most, leads to certain feelings, many of which are unconscious. But those unconscious feelings lead to decisions you make in daily life. And those decisions you make create actions. Those actions only further reinforce the state that you're in right now. So, for example, someone's trying to lose weight. And they go on the diet and it's working. They lost 5 pounds their first week. They lost another 2 pounds their third week. And then in their third week, they gained 1.5 pounds. They say, see, this doesn't work. This program doesn't work. I knew it wouldn't work for me. And it's not even worth it. And so that night, you go out and you have one of the most epic flex or cheat meals, whatever you want to call it. It's just poor food choices, right? You have one of the most epic food choices in the world, and you gain even more weight the next day. You feel more down about yourself, but you say, you know what? It doesn't matter because I can't lose weight anyways, so why should I deprive myself? That is a perfect example of the nocebo effect. It's the perfect example of victimhood. Now, is it justified? I totally understand where you're coming from. I've been there myself. So, of course, I know where you're coming from. The problem is this. It doesn't get you anywhere. Eventually, you're going to say, I'm not happy. I'm depressed. I don't want to be in this state. But you've made it worse by furthering up with those actions. So what we need to do is begin to move you towards an empowered state. An empowered state, or the empowered client, the empowered patient, the empowered person in this world is the person that ultimately gets what they desire from a beneficial standpoint for everyone. And I'll talk about that towards the end. An empowered person realizes this, that it's unlikely that you're going to figure it out the very first time. It's even unlikely that you're going to figure it out the 5th time. But you know what? I don't want to put the nocebo effect in your mind. Maybe you will figure it out the first time. But the empowered person realizes this, that there's nothing wrong with learning experiences, that you need to read the books, meet the doctors, follow the programs, follow your practitioner or coach's advice. You're going to learn from them. You're going to grow with that. You're going to begin to implement more and more. You're going to mess up, but you're also going to realize that with each, I don't even call it a mess up, with each trial, does it work? Yes or no? At what dosage? Yes or no? You're going to be able to figure things out. And that will allow you to acquire a new knowledge. Your knowledge base is going to continue to grow. Further experimentation will further that knowledge base. It will deepen it instead of staying at a surface level. You're going to begin to focus more on the journey and your growth and not the end desired result. Because if all you do is focus on the end desired result and not the journey and the growth that it takes to get there, you're going to be disappointed on a day in and day out basis because sometimes life is slow. Life is slow until we get towards the end and we're like, wow, that was actually not that bad. But life is slow when you stay fixated on what you don't have. So you have to also understand this, that the end goal, the desired result, will only come when your journey is complete. That's the funny thing about it, is anyone that has not achieved their goal yet, it's because you fully haven't walked down your journey yet. You haven't finished the path. Maybe you're halfway there. Maybe you're 90% of the way there, that you've done so much already that it's just going to take one more breakthrough. Like, that's it. One more piece of knowledge where you're like, aha, that's what I was missing. I get it. Now I realize everything I was doing that was almost perfect, but I needed this one last piece. Like, my mentor did not have all the answers. I had accumulated 99% of the knowledge I needed, but I was still relapsing. I was getting well, but I was still relapsing. And I needed to figure out why I was doing that. My mentor shared with me the 1% of advice I needed so that I would stop relapsing. And that is exactly what I needed. But I had put in the years of work to figure it out. Now, remember, I put in years of work before there was free information online. It took thousands of, 10,000, hundreds of thousands of hours of reading because there was no online. Now, do I still recommend reading to go more in depth? Of course. But I'm telling you right now, when I was trying to get well in the late 90s, I didn't have the internet, didn't have a computer, right? So what was I doing? I was reading, and it was tedious because it was one book and then try to implement the book, read and then implement. And then I would go to the next. And also, late 90s, functional medicine, good luck trying to find a doctor that did that. So what I'm saying is now it's easier than ever. The information is out there, but don't jump from one to the other. What I need you to do is this, is to begin to say that I am going to start with a blueprint that works for many, many people in my particular position. But I have to realize that it's not the blueprint. It's not the doctor. It's not the practitioner. It's not the coach. It's me. I'm the one that is ultimately going to succeed. My doctors and coaches and books and systems. I will be grateful for their assistance. I will be grateful for their knowledge. But it is me who will ultimately succeed. You have to understand that all of the power is within you. If you meet with a personal trainer or a coach even once a week, that's 1 out of 168 hours per week. Think about that. You are with yourself the other 167 hours. All success goes to you. You have to understand that. Yes, everyone is given a plan, but not everyone implements the plan. The people who will ultimately succeed in life, in all of their goals, are the ones that are willing to say, I will most likely mess up multiple times along my path, but they are not mess-ups. They're opportunities for me to learn and grow. Opportunities to say, this is one more way that will not work, but now I can cross it off my list because there are only so many different ways to get well. So I will continue upon my path. And I know that the faster that I move along that path, the sooner I will get well. So I will become a student of the game. I will get to really honestly enjoy the path that I'm on right now because I'm learning right now how to heal myself. And as I heal myself, I will then be better for others. I will be able to teach others, and you will be that light that they need. You will be the one to be able to show them where they're going wrong. And that's what this is all about. The Cabral concept, the rain barrel effect, the Dr. Bell detox, running the Big Five, the starter kit, any lab is simply to empower you. It's to take control of this information, is to begin to realize what's going on a much deeper level. It's to understand that there are answers waiting for you. Once you are ready, those answers will appear. Might they hold everything you need? Probably not. It is the next step. As you take that next step in the dark, the next step appears. But you must take that first step. That's always what it's all about. Begin to move forward. The Cabral concept is this. Begin to change this body, this vessel that you have right now, in both mind and body. Once you do that, you will begin to change your life without even trying. As you change your life, you will literally become the person you were destined to be. Thank you so much for tuning into another Cabral concept. I truly appreciate each and every one of your listens. If this was helpful, do share it with anyone else you believe it could serve. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stephencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.